Welcome everybody to this Financial Inclusion Week session where we will be exploring the experiences of USAID Uthabiti activities program in terms of refugee financing in Uganda. We are operating in two settlements in northern Uganda, Palabek Refugee Settlement, and the southwest settlement called Nakivale. With me here are three great panelists. We've got Bindi Javeri. Bindi is a technical advisor at Grameen Foundation, and she specializes in financial services for forcibly displaced populations. She has over 16 years experience designing, managing, and providing technical assistance to financial services, service and livelihoods programs in developing countries. And then I've also got Yenji, who's joining us online. Yenji Lokule.
Thank you.
Welcome, Yenji. Yenji is a microfinance expert with over 23 years of experience in the microfinance industry. And then finally, and certainly not least, we do have Boaz Tuhame. Boaz brings over 13 years of experience in commercial and humanitarian banking, marketing, and business development. Welcome, Boaz.
Thank you so much.
I'm the Chief of Party of USAID's Uthabiti activity. My name is Mwesigwa Biki Isharaza, and I'll be the moderator for this session. And just to give you a bit of a background about Uthabiti, Uthabiti is a 3-year Bureau for Humanitarian Assistance award that started in 2022, in April of 2022. So we are in a 3rd year of implementation. Its core purpose is to build the resilience of refugees and host community members through market-led solutions. So with me here are partners that we are working with, the private sector, and our focus today is going to be on how our experiences on trying to enable refugees to access financial services. Okay, so before we get started, let's hear a little bit from Bindi about the work that Grameen Foundation is doing under the Uthabiti activity. Tell us a little bit about our approach that we are using on this activity.
Yeah, definitely. I think that Uthabiti's access to finance approach is really about building a more enabling financial services ecosystem for refugees, especially women and youth, to access financial services for business growth. And so we're doing this through a very private sector-led approach. So on one hand, we pull in the private sector into refugee settlements like Palabek and Nachivale Refugee Settlement to deliver financial services to refugees and to improve on the services they are delivering to refugees. So on the pool side, some of the things that we've done are we worked with Rufi to establish a new microfinance branch in Palabek Refugee Settlement. It's actually the first microfinance branch to ever exist in Palabek. We're also working with both Rufi and Ugafode to digitalize village savings and loans associations, which are primarily women, and link them to formal financial services, group loans at Rufi and Ugafode. Something else we're doing is we're working with MTN Uganda and their master agents to expand digital financial services agent networks in Palabek and Nachivale refugee settlements to bring financial services closer to refugees. And then finally, through our Catalytic and Innovation Growth Facility, we're going to be working on specific initiatives that the financial institutions have chosen to help them expand financial services and improve financial services even more for refugees.
Excellent. So we'll be hearing more about that. So I think I'll just turn over to Yengi online. So Yengi, could you tell us briefly about Rufi, how and why you got involved with serving refugees?
Well, thank you. Rural Finance Initiative is the full name. Otherwise, we go by the acronym RUFI. And as you have explained earlier, RUFI started operations in 2008 in South Sudan. But in 2017, there was a conflict there. So RUFI was forced to close 75% of our branches, 3 out of 4. And there was a very big loss in terms of money, almost 300,000 US dollars. So when the shareholders and the board sat, they said, why don't we follow the refugees and make sure we continue with our service? And that's how Rufi came to start operations in Uganda. It was I would say it was like a panic. Having lost a lot, then said, let's try our level best to go there. So we did that 2017, started operations in Uganda. And from that panic reaction, so to say, here we are now with 6 branches in Uganda and serving over 7,800 clients, 72% or 74% of whom are refugees.
Thank you, Yengi. Boaz, how about Ugaford? Tell us a bit about Ugaford and how you ended up serving refugees in Uganda.
Oh, thank you so much. Ugaford is a regulated financial institution that is operating under a Tier 3, regulated by Bank of Uganda. In 2017, we did a diagnostic study in the central Kampala, where the urban refugees were, and we realized that these refugees are really fundable population. It was under our strategic plan by that time to improve the lives of low-income earners. So we had to find that refugees are part of the low-income earners. We moved to Nakivale Refugee Settlement, and we opened a branch in 2020 during COVID, up to now, where we have 3 serving points in 3 refugee camps in Uganda.
Excellent. Bindi, you've talked to us a little bit about Grameen's work under the Uthabiti project, but can you tell us more about Grameen Foundation, how you ended up serving refugees? Do you have a bit of a history around that, institutional history?
I'm not sure. I mean, we have a short history around serving refugees, but I can say that we're an international NGO. We've been around for about 26 years, and in Uganda since 2004. So we're really working to transform systems, both financial and market systems, so women and their households can thrive. And so in 2019, we decided to start working with refugees. And from the beginning, the approach we really wanted to take was a private sector-led approach. So we wanted to work with the private sector. I think that Rufi and MTN were our first partners. And we wanted to work with the private sector to address the supply side and the demand side barriers that refugees face to both accessing financial services and using them for business growth.
Back to you, Boaz. What kind of barriers and challenges have you faced in terms of serving refugees?
The barriers are there because this is a population that is unstable in Uganda, and we find that we're serving them, we have a lot of language barrier challenges because these people come from different parts of the country. As we serve them, these people move. They are not stabilized in one place. They move from one camp to another. There is resettlement and repatriation. Sometimes when they go back to their countries and you are still serving them, of course, they have to go when they have not cleared their obligations. And you find that all these challenges come to hit us. But as an institution, however much challenges are coming, we are putting a lot of initiatives to make sure that we look further to curb these situations down.
Okay, great. How about Yengi? What challenges can you share that are a little bit, maybe different or maybe add on to what Boaz has shared?
Actually, Rufi faces different challenges compared to them. And one of the challenges that we face is the actually access to affordable on-lending capital. Unlike them, we are Tier 4, so we are not allowed to collect savings. So when I talk of affordability, is the aspects of maybe even the interest rates and the requirements for collateral. As I said, our history is from South Sudan. So you find out that to get collateral to secure good capital to our own lending is one of the challenges that we face now, because right now with 6 branches, and almost reaching about 10 different refugee settlements, we need some good capital about to do that. Then secondly, we have the aspects of operations. Most of the settlements are rural-based. They are really far from town. So you find out that you need to be able to move to those areas. We have branches that are set in the middle of a settlement, for example, 20 or 30 kilometers away from a commercial bank. Now you can realize that challenge of trying to move cash in such remote areas and maintain liquidities and then ensure the security is okay. So because of those operations in the rural areas and the movements, that's another challenge that we see. When we started, one of the biggest challenges we faced was the perception. The refugees believe everything is free money from NGOs or whatever. So the initial perception was Rufi was also coming in as an NGO. So you find somebody may come thinking that these things are free. So we really had to erode that thinking by training and actually making awareness to make that the refugees and even the host communities do not perceive us an NGO and they start thinking of our services as free or relief and aid.
Great. Thanks, Yengi. So we'll, go and talk about some of the way we've overcome some of these challenges. Bindi, could you tell us a little bit about Grameen Foundation and some of the things that you have put in place to support, this ecosystem building overall? And then we'll listen to Boaz and Yengi. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the main things that we have put in place is we have been trying to address two major challenges. I would say 2 to 3 major challenges with refugee lending, and I think that even Boaz and Yonji may not have mentioned it, even though it's a major challenge for them, is lack of credit history and lack of collateral amongst refugees. Refugees are not allowed to hold land title in Uganda because they're not citizens, and so they don't have that. They can't use their land as collateral for lending, and so that makes them riskier clients than your normal Ugandan citizen. So there is that challenge. There is the challenge of lack of credit history in Uganda. And then there is the challenge that refugees don't really know about financial services. So we have been trying to address that. And then also the thing that Yenji mentioned, the high cost of lending to these rural, hard-to-reach clients. So we have been trying to address that primarily through digitization and digital financial services. So we have, for example, we have a digital VSLA platform that we use to record the savings and loan records of these community-based savings and loans groups and provide those to our financial institution partners in place of a formal credit history or formal collateral, so they can see the performance of these VSLAs and their history in lending, even though these people don't have a formal credit history. So we use digital VSLA platforms. We also use digital financial services. We're working with Uthabiti right now to digitize their Smart Women loan and savings accounts. So we want to increase usage of digital financial services amongst refugees so they don't have to travel long distances to financial institutions to access services. The other major thing that we always do, or I guess 2 more things. One thing is financial education and digital financial literacy education, trying to build the capacity of refugees and host communities to know about the financial services that are available through our partners, and then know how to use digital platforms to access those financial services. Yeah.
Great, thanks, Bindi. I see a common theme being leveraging technology and digitalization and building ecosystems. So, Boaz, could you tell us, some of the innovations that Ugaford has done, especially in Nachi Valley, where we are working, and the Uthabiti, and how these innovations respond to the unique needs of refugees?
As Bin has said, we have also leveraged on digitization, which has given us a milestone, because a refugee camp in Nachi Valley is seated on almost 73 square kilometers. You find that even when we have a branch, it cannot serve all the refugees in there. But technology has given us a milestone. We have also not stopped at digitization. We have also gone ahead to do third-party banking, introducing agency banking to reach to most parts of the camp to see that these refugees can access services from their ease. We have established a call center system where we have recruited refugee staff to sit in the call center, call these customers, hear their grievances, ask them about the performance of our products, and these people speak their own languages. You find that they can easily communicate to them, which has also given us a milestone. As well, we have designed products that are tailored to human needs. We went to the camp and look at the products that can serve them better. That is how you hear about the VSLA coming up. Smart Woman product, designing a product that can serve women needs alone. We have designed those products both in credit as well as savings products to see that these people can access services at ease and enjoy the products that we offer to them.
Great, Boaz. Could you tell me about what the reach has been so far in terms of the Smart Women solution?
So, Smart Women solution, we have moved.
Mm-hmm.
So far, we are approaching to 10,000 customers across because after looking at this initiative that it is serving well to the refugees, we also had to scale up to other host communities to see that they can all benefit from it. But we have also raised the number of portfolio that is close to almost $1 million.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks. So I'll turn to Yengi. And Yengi, do you mind sharing with us some of the innovations that you have introduced, as especially given your unique situation?
Actually, one of the innovations we came up with was addressing what Bindi has raised, whereby refugees are not able to use any land they may own here as security. So when that issue came up because when we tried to put the refugees initially in groups, they said, come on, we don't know ourselves. We are in the settlement, not as we came from our village. So we cannot be in groups. We want to be individuals. So our thinking was, how do we address this? Then we said, fine, we are going to do cross-border collateral. If you have your security in South Sudan, we are ready to use our network there to be able to appraise your security, value it, and use it as collateral here. So we came up with this cross-border collateralization of loans taken from South Sudan. And it picked up very well because anybody who had a security from that side would be able to use it to get a loan from here. So that one helped most of those people who wanted individual loans. Then we looked at those ones also who had lost everything and then they really have nowhere to start from. So we developed a product which we call an incubator product, whereby we train these people and then finance them in a pool of 3 options. There's a component of loan, there's own capital, and then there is a component of grant that we call the log funding model. So this helps some people who have lost everything to be able to be trained on another enterprise, and then they put in a bit of their own capital, a component of grant, and a component of loan to be able to start anything. And we called it incubator. Initially, the actual name was Remedy. We called it incubator because it was preparing you for another stage, meaning that when you finish the first loan, now you go to our conventional loans. So that one was really, it picked up really well with the women and then widows and then the youth plus the farmers. So the response was really good. This product actually, unfortunately, could not continue because COVID, otherwise we would have continued with that. And as the rest put in, we also innovated around the VSLS digitalization and innovative lending. How do we lend to these women who are in the group who actually have never learned how to lend or even to save? So it took us some time to convince these people to be able to come and innovate, and borrow and save with us. Because banking in South Sudan had lost a lot of trust. But when we came here, we had to convince them. And only thing that helped us to be able to convince them is because they knew us from the other side. So when we talked that you can bank with us, they found it possible, and that's why we're able to convince them. So it's basically these 3 products where we do a lot of innovation to make sure we could serve the refugees.
Yeah. So Yengi, let's talk a little bit more about Rufi and Uthabiti. And we know that through the Uthabiti activity, Rufi took a risk to establish a new branch in Palabek refugee settlement in an area where you had not worked before. So what level of information and support did you need to de-risk this activity and convince you to set up this branch?
Thank you. The first time we had that discussion with Grameen Foundation, we said we need to reach on the ground. to see what's on the ground. So that's the first thing that we did, to go and do an assessment of the possibility of doing some products there. So when we went on the ground, we realized that actually there was no financial institution that was providing these services to these people. That usually the second component we take into consideration is, after the project, can we continue providing services? Sustainability can be maintained. So we realized that because there was a market and then there was that potential to grow, that's when we said, okay, let's go and then start with the products that we think can work out. The other advantage we had is that, unlike all the other refugee settlements, the refugees are very close to the host communities, which means that our services can reach both the refugees and host communities. So we found it as a potential area to be able to provide the financial services and at the same time maintain our sustainability. Because once you land, it's very difficult to come out of that. So we really pay a lot of attention to see whether we'll be able to continue post-project. Otherwise, sometimes we don't do that. But because we realized it could work, that's why we maintained our services, and we picked up with Grameen from there. Thank you.
So Yengi, my next question to you is, as a recognized leader in refugee financing, what is your advice for organizations who want to expand access to financial services for refugees?
When we started refugee lending, everybody feared to work with refugees because they said they are a flight risk. Maybe for us, it was because we have known them before, so it became a bit of a problem. But for anybody who really wants to work with refugees, I think the aspects of thinking that refugees are a flight risk should not be the case. You know, when refugees come, when they'll be going back ultimately, it's going to be gradual. And rest assured, they don't move as a family at once. They move in shifts. The family head goes, these things are okay, then they move gradually. So around that period of time, if there's a loan or whatever, you should be able to recover it. So you have to do good due diligence and be able to do that. Then coming to what Boaz had talked about the barriers of languages, we should be able to hire a combination of refugees and host communities. One, because if you hire a refugee, for example, as a loan officer, the buy-in will be high from the refugees because this is their own. And then also when you want to reach the host communities, and then is somebody from the community who is going there, then you find out that the buy-in also becomes very fast. So it's always good to be able to combine these refugees and host communities to be part of your staff so that you can talk to these people very well. And then secondly, and sometimes I find it also happening, frankly, if you don't want to create tension between refugees and host communities, don't try as much as possible to target the refugees with specific products. Unless you have another product that is the same that can serve the host communities. But if you come up with a product that is only targeting refugees, suddenly the host community will think there's some preferential treatment for the refugees.
What is your advice for organizations who want to expand access to financial services for refugees?
The advice I can give to people who want to expand to refugees, one, they need to leverage on partnerships. When you come to refugee lending or refugee space, there are very many partners and everyone is skilled in a different perspective. So you find that you are using these skills to help you reach where you are going. And most of these initiatives that these partners have, most of them are NGOs. They come with a lot of effort that can change the mindset very fast. So if you leverage on that, you are able to kickstart with them and move forward. Then secondly, you have to focus on digitization, because where we are heading, we don't think that you will find people there at one place and serve them the way you want. We have to bring services that can be easily accessible, to the populations that we are serving.
As we're wrapping up, there's just a few things we might need to think about as takeaways. But let's just turn to Bindi.
Mm-hmm.
Bindi, what do you think the future looks like for refugee financing?
I really think that the future of our financial inclusion in Uganda and lots of other countries is going to be moving into those underserved segments, including refugees, including women. And so financial institutions that do want to expand their market share and get business need to move into these spaces. And any financial institution that is moving into the refugee space, the first thing they need to do is understand refugees, understand the situation that they're in, understand the barriers and bottlenecks that they face to accessing financial services, and design products and services that address those barriers, overcome those barriers. I think that just like Boaz had said, digital financial services is very important. It reduces transport costs and long distances to financial institutions and brings financial services closer to those refugees in those very hard to reach areas. I also think that any kind of financial institution or NGO working in this space, we constantly need to be thinking about the business case and sustainability, just like Rufi and Yugafod both said. We can't start these financial products for short periods on donor-funded projects and then end them as soon as the project ends. We need to find something that builds revenue for the financial institution and also delivers value to refugees.
I keep hearing ecosystem building. We're talking about bringing all these key actors together. For any development partners that are thinking into going into this, think about coming with the right expertise and the right partnerships together. Think about an ecosystem and how you can approach these challenges from a systems point of view. And so in this context, whereas we are talking about financial inclusion, you cannot have an enabled financial inclusion space where you have a weak market. You cannot have a strengthened space when you don't have a capacitated or skilled credit recipients or even market actors. So it is an ecosystem approach that you need to take, and investment from whether it's donors, anyone, that needs to think through that. The second thing, just to echo what Bindi says, is about thinking about the business case and thinking about what is in it for the private sector, but also how can you make sure that they're being actually inclusive so that it's not exploitatory in nature, and vulnerable populations such as refugees can actually benefit from these financial products. But in doing that, they need to be things that are sustainable. So they need to be profitable and beneficial for both ends. So in summary, inclusive business models that work for everyone.